Sorry, there's echo. Okay. I've been in security around 9 years now, and an ex-CISO turned consultant. And currently, I'm using AI to solve cybersecurity problems. I have a couple of that on my portfolio, and also some in production as well. So that's just a brief about me.
Hello, Charles. Are you there?
Yes, please. I'm done.
All right, all right, all right. So I'm going to share my screen shortly. And this particular reports from NIPS is going to guide our introductory session, where we're going to look at some very dirty statistics that came out. Confirm we can see my screen. Just drop a hi via the chat session. So we can see 6% fraud count reduced to 95,620 in 2023 when compared to 2022. And for Q1 quarter, so there's the highest fraud count, highest fraud volume for 2023, that's on the Q1. Then you also see for Q4, Q4 with the highest fraud volume, there's more attacks coming out from Q1. Then for Q4, fraud value. So these attackers are able to get more successful attempts for Q4. And so we can see the states, the Nigerian state with the highest fraud count, and that happens to be Lagos State. So 48%, an actual loss value of 49% experienced in Nigeria. This is compared to national statistics. Then according to NIPS, so this is the NIPS 2023 annual fraud landscape report. So amount 23% amount lost increased, so 17.67 billion naira when compared to 2022. So this is the total amount lost. And the month of October has the highest actual loss for 2023, 3.7 billion. Yes, this also goes in line with the Q4. That's October, November, December. So some of these things are also going to be discussing. And yeah, the second slide starts, then we just get started into the question proper. So looking at fraud, attempted fraud amounts and the value. So if you look at the attempted fraud value versus the actual loss value. So we can see Q4 2022, the attempted was close to the actual loss. So attempted loss is the blue. Actual loss is the blue, attempted loss is the orange. So we can see attempted was more, actual loss. So meaning security professionals did not really block anything much. If we look at Q3 2022, attempted loss and actual loss, they were almost at equilibrium. Q2 2022, this is looking at 2022, attempted loss and actual loss was just same. Q1 2022, yes, there was a little disparity, but if you look at 2023 reports, the gaps were very close. So it's as good as for every single attempt that comes in for each of these financial institutions, their firewalls, their security professionals are just sleeping. That's very terrible. So myself and Charles are going to be looking at some of these interesting stuff on what is causing these issues and how financial institutions can mitigate each of these challenges. So a quick question for you, Charles. In one sentence, are we winning or losing the war against financial fraud in Nigeria? Did you get that
Okay,
question?
yeah. I got a question,
All
but
right.
sincerely, it's really hard to say because if for us to be able to tell whether we are winning or losing, we should compare what was lost to what was gained, right? So I'll be comparing the actual loss values to maybe the revenue or the maybe profit after tax and figures like that to see how much of a percentage was lost to fraud, right? So it will be difficult to give an answer for all financial institutions in Nigeria. However, if we're able to get like a table that has, let's say, their revenue for the year and then the amount, the percentage of that revenue that was lost to fraud, then we can tell whether they're winning or they're losing.
All right. All right. So what can you say about that conversion rate? So if you look at the NIPS, yes, I'm going to share on the chat link right now. So for those of us who want to jump on this NIPS report, yes, I've just dropped the link. So what can you say about the conversion rates between the attempted fraud value and the actual fraud value? Looking at 2022 and looking at 2023, what can you say about it? Is it that our firewalls, the current financial institution, their firewalls are not working, or they need to fire their security teams?
Okay. If you ask me, I think the disparity between the actual loss value and the attempted fraud value is not so much. So that means um, the systems in place are probably not strong enough to significantly combat fraud, right? Or the systems are not uh, maybe have not adapted to um, the the new way that fraud happens. Fraud happens in different ways. Some via social engineering, some via maybe account takeover or something like that, right? So in terms of that particular statistic, um, I would not say that national institutions are winning.
Mhm.
That's looking at that particular statistic, right? I wouldn't say they are winning because the disparity is not so much. It's more like um, if fraudsters are willing to like put in the work, the they'll be able to make away with whatever sum it is that they want to make away with. So I think it also tells on the fraud detection and prevention system that are working in various financial institutions. I'm not going to give any verdict as a judge to say, oh, they are not doing a good job or they are doing a good job, right? But could be told if you have a system that is working, it's going to show in the results, right? So um, I don't have an idea of what kind of tools are being used. Last I checked, that last when I was in the consulting industry back in Nigeria, I, I'm aware that they were using rule-based fraud detection systems, and the world has moved beyond rule-based fraud detection system because that one even catches the fraud after it has happened, not even before
Mhm.
it happens, right? So I also, I've also been privileged to witness deployment of these fraud detection systems, right? And sometimes it can be so cumbersome to not just deploy but to manage as well. Could be a lot of false positives, right? Because some of this data that uh, indicates fraudulent activity could also be legitimate activity. All right, it's not only fraudsters that are moving large amounts of money in chunks, right? Legitimate people are also doing that. So um, these are things we need to look at based on your question.
Interesting. I don't know if you saw the Tech Cabal recent release on that was UBA's fraud. Um, what they declared for last year. Let's just bring it up. UBA fraud, and it was greatly aided by the internal person. So UBA lost 1.14 billion to fraud in 2024. Now these fraudsters are really, really cashing out. They're really, really cashing out. In fact, it's now a very interesting job. I'm also sharing the link. For those of us who have not seen it, can also access it. It's now a very interesting venture. You becoming a fraud star in the financial sector. Now, now I would have loved to share some charts. I'll just go ahead to just call the numbers. 112% increase in fraud count between 2019 and 2023. 496% increase in fraud losses since 2019. Now, if you look at the fraud ratio, fraud value versus all transaction value is about 0.0022%, according to NIPS and FITC reports. So, Charles, over to you. If fraud is such a small percent of the total transactions, why should banks panic. Because it now looks like financial institutions are now beginning to factor the fraudulent loss as risk of doing business, and in fact, they're even glad to report it as risk of doing business. So now the question again: if fraud such is very small percent of total transactions, why should the banks fight?
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me clearly, please? Is my
Yes, you
network
can hear.
breaking?
Yes, yes, you can hear.
Okay. All right. Well, you're right to say that um, amount lost to fraud is a lot smaller than the revenue. You know, I was saying earlier that I can't tell if uh, um, banks are winning or they are losing, except if I can see that if I can see the amount that they lost to fraud, right, and then their revenue for that year. So with what I'm seeing for UBA lost 1.14 billion, and
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to get their revenue, but I can see that their profit alone was 804 billion. So that means the revenue
Okay.
was a lot more than that, right? So comparing those two figures, it appears they would be on the winning side, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, no system is perfect, right? Especially when you're using maybe AI-based systems. No system is perfect. You win some, you lose some. But the most important thing is, are you significantly um, or rather, are you blocking a significant number of fraudulent activity compared to the total sum, right? So I, I also wouldn't agree that that 1.14 billion was all the attempted you know um, the actual amount lost to
Number
fraud and all
actually.
the
Mm-hmm.
attempted, yes, right? So that means the attempted fraudulent activity in terms of when you tie that to a naira value must have been a lot more than that. So I don't know what it is, but maybe it could have been maybe 20 billion, and they were able to reduce it down to 1.14 billion, right? Um, there are going to be inefficiencies in every system, but the most important thing is to reduce it to what to its barest minimum.
There's
So
even a problem of reporting the true value from each of these
mhm.
institutions. They don't actually report the true value. Just like NIPS that declared 2023 total loss was of 17 billion naira, whereas we know some institutions that like Q1 of 2024, 2025, you know some institutions that has lost about more than 7 billion, but at the end of the year, NIPS will just report one downsized particular figure. So I don't even think they're also reporting the figure. What do you think about that?
Okay, I think one of the reasons for disparity between these figures reported by NIBS and then reported by banks is the fact that when the activity happens, sometimes you can you can easily recover some or all of the of the money lost to fraud, right? There are recall processes. Some could even be maybe like chargeback that you can use to get the money back, right? So the bank might be reporting something a lot bigger, and I think there's a regulation that says report any fraud that happens. So if they report a fraud of let's say 10 billion, it's possible that they could recover a large part of that 10 billion,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
um, at the end of the day, they submit their reports to NIBS. It's possible that NIBS now says, "Oh, you recovered this, you have this, so this is what you lost to fraud," and NIBS might be reporting on the remnants, right? I know
mm-hmm,
I understand of how the financial industry works in Nigeria. So these are some of the things that I know. I know that you must report. I know that you must engage, maybe not just news, but also CBN as well. Report fraudulent activity, give them an update on how you are going about it. How much did you recover? How much is still lost? Right. So it's possible NIBS also has access to this data as well. All right. And since a lot of transactions go through them, they'll also be able to tell what was recovered and what has still been lost. So that's
mm-hmm.
what I think would be the reason for the disparity between the two reported figures, right? So I may not be able to prove that um, financial institutions are not reporting the true sum. I don't have any evidence to prove that, but that could be the case. That could not be the case. But the most important thing to me is having an efficient system because at the end of the day, even if you are reporting a false figure in an attempt to look clean, eh, before your customers and the regulator, you are the one feeling the true impacts of being defrauded. And I mean, we've heard about organizations that went out of business because of fraud. There were a
Mhm.
couple of fintechs I know that went out of business because they got hacked. And um,
Like Union 54.
yeah, those ones they vexed and left the country. Chargeback was too much, so they said, "Look,
Or so
we're
much.
not doing it again." Yeah, it was bad, and it affected a lot of businesses as well.
Mhm.
There's also I know the crypto company that just um, uh, got down from the boss, and they're like, "No, we're not doing anymore," because of um, he got hacked, and the hackers moved a lot of money from their their accounts, and they were not liquid enough to continue doing business. So these are some of the things that we need to consider as well.
So I was just bringing this. I'm sharing my screen right now. Bringing this particular tech cover report. So NIPS 2023 report says 17 billion naira that was lost to fraud. But we can see tech cover reporting already. Industry 30 billion naira lost to chargeback fraud and launches recovery process. So at every point in time, yes, I don't feel these guys are actually giving the real numbers as to what's going on. But just like you said, they must have recovered some of this amount of money, or yeah, but at the same time, a loss is a loss. It should be reported. Yes, it should be reported. The actual value should be reported. And also, I don't think so many financial institutions are aware of NIPS does have a portal to report fraud. Um, Financial fraud reporting portal. NIPS does have a portal. I don't think a lot of financial institutions, especially the fintech, I don't think they're aware of it. Um, so everybody should report the actual numbers. Let's really know what's going on. And let the next report that's going to be coming from NIPS for 2024 and the one that will also come for 2025 reflect actual numbers of exactly what's going on. All right. Yes, mobile fraud is actually number one, followed by web and POS fraud. So internet banking fraud loss jumped by 325% in 2023. Again, for those of you saying, why am I still referencing 2023? That's because that's the last news report that was released. We're expecting a 2024 report. So 4.1 billion naira was lost via a single corporate internal fraud incident. ATM fraud count grew by 108% in Q2 2023. I've dropped the NIF report on the chart. Web fraud amounts involved rose by 127%, but actual loss dropped by 54%. Yes. Now, so Charles, why is mobile fraud rising while ATM and POS are dropping in some cases? Do I take the question again? Are you clear?
No, no, it's okay. It's clear. Um, I think it's a case of demand. Everybody's on the phone these days, and we've passed the mobile app boom. There's a time there was we were saying that there's going to be an app for everything, and truly we have an app for everything now, especially for banking, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people today, you want to send money to someone, you're most likely going to use your mobile phone rather than get a laptop logged in the way we should do it before, right? So because we have a lot of people on mobile, of course, the attackers are going to go where uh, the kill is, where the game is, right? So you have 30,000 on mobile, you have 500 on POS, that's using POS, 500 using
Mm-hmm.
ATM. Of course, you're going to record uh,
More
a
bad
higher
traffic.
number of fraudulent activity on mobile because of the amount of people using it. So um, I'm not going to say everybody, but a large number of people should have mobile apps that they use to access their bank accounts and carry out transactions. So
Mhm,
with that, it's going to be very easy for them to get hacked, right? So in
mhm,
terms of POS um, transactions, majorly for people that need access to petty cash. And I don't know, I'm not seeing that report, but um, I'm figuring out that POS should be a lot higher than ATM because on every street you go today, there should be someone offering POS services. right?
So
So
when we see, this is for 2023 reporting. When we see
okay,
2024, maybe that's going to reflect better.
okay. So just to answer your question, it's a case of population numbers. How
Mhm.
many people are using the mobile? How many people are using the POS? How many people are using the ATM? I can't remember the last time I went to an ATM. Should be trying hard to remember, but maybe that should be 2021,
But you can remember
2022.
when
No,
last you used an agency banking person to collect cash, POS.
that was last year. Yeah,
Interesting.
yes, that was last year.
Interesting. So I was going to say something as regards also in line with this particular question. So prior to this call, I was looking at mobile, Nigerian mobile cellular subscription rates value. According to NCC, is around 224 million. So Nigeria does have a population of about 230, 240 million people. And you see mobile subscription value, number of people with SIM cards and smartphones. I don't know if it's smart. I think it's just basically SIM card of 224. So yes, so I could understand also according to demand statistics, just in line with what you just said. Um, Now, next question is the spike in the internet banking fraud a tech issue or a people issue? So earlier, sometime last week, I was looking at some stats and I posted because it now looks like fintechs can just gym stuff very fast, and within 2 3 weeks they are live and they're already floating some big numbers, and the next thing they are down with fraud. But also, I'm there to actually see news reports reflect as to most of these frauds, is it perpetrated by commercial banks or is perpetrated by fintechs? Now, while I was still struggling with trying to get the source of this fraud, then I remembered that a good number of these fintechs are consuming APIs from commercial banks. I said, how can one then trace this particular problem? NIPS has to help us trace the source of this fraud. Where is it actually really coming out from? But yeah, again, back to my question: is the spike in the internet banking fraud a tech issue or a people issue?
Okay, it's always going to be a people issue because to start with, it's people that are committing the fraud in the first place. Right. Right. So I've been in the national financial services industry since I think 2016 when I started
Yeah,
consulting.
pen testing days.
So yeah, trying to remember the days we used to fight. Yeah. So I've been in the industry for that long. May not be so much, but it's quite some time. And I can tell you for free that there's a regulation even before you launch. You must have anti-fraud controls as a fintech, right, or as a financial institution that offers digital banking services. There are regulations, all right. You must do KYC. You must have like a authentication, authorization, and so you go ahead to even make it a lot more serious, right? So when you have all these technical controls and hackers see that, oh, it's difficult to circumvent these controls, the next thing they try to do is to exploit the weakest link, which is human weakness. And I'll give you a life example. Um, I recall in the year 2023, I was moving to a new apartment and I furnished it, about to move in, but I was trying to get a generator. So I called the guy that supplies me that. I was like, oh, I need a generator. I'm moving in. And so I said, okay, fine. Just send me the money. I asked him how much, and I sent it to his account, one of the fintechs. Let me not mention the name, please. Um, I sent him the money on a Friday, right? By Saturday morning, he called me to. I mean, he sent me a message on WhatsApp to cry that. That yesterday when I sent in the money, some people called him and told them that they are from that fintech and that they want to do maintenance on his accounts. So me, I'm like, they told you want to do maintenance on your account. Do they want to clean the account with rag or what? I mean, why is it just you that did maintenance for, right? So he said he didn't know. And then they told him, oh, you have so and so amount coming to your account just now. And he said yes. As somebody sent it to him to buy generator. Say yes, that he should not worry. That what is going to happen is they're going to um do the maintenance on him so that hackers will not hack his account, and then they'll give him access back to the account tomorrow. He said, okay, no problem. They said, okay, but we'll send you some codes, and we need you to send those codes to us. The first code they sent to him was to um, allow the app to be used on another phone. You know, you have to authenticate. Second code they sent was for initial transaction, and then they kept um, sending in OTP code because there was a limit on that particular account. You know, I think when you're using a new phone, you have like a 50K limit. So they kept removing 50K until they wiped the account clean. My money
Wow.
was his own money. All this was happening. He didn't bother to call me to tell me, oh, this was happening. But him, he didn't know. He felt that, oh, he's customer service. The next day, they still called him again, you know, and they're like, oh, we are done with the maintenance. So they wanted to give him access back to the account. And I said, okay, we are sending you more OTP. And they sent more OTP. And I think they managed to remove the what was left, and they gave him access back to the account. And then when he logged in, the account was empty.
Wow.
I I I, I didn't know how to respond, sincerely. Like I had a lot going on that period. Then the stress of moving house, and then now somebody is telling me that the money I gave him to buy a new generator is gone, and in thin air like that. So I had questions for him. Number one is they told you, was he not getting alert? Yeah, he was getting alerts, I think, because I know he showed me. He was getting alerts, but it didn't cross his mind. It didn't cross his mind because I recall clearly how that thing was, and it was a very ugly incident,
So it
right?
depends. So I don't think, like recently I've been using OP. I don't think I get alerts. Default OP does bring um enable alerts by default, except you turn it on manually.
Okay. Now that you mentioned it's OP, so I don't think he turned on the alerts.
Exactly.
So I don't think he turned on the alerts. Now that you mentioned, it's actually okay. And I had questions like they told you they did maintenance for you. How would you believe that it's only you they're doing maintenance for, right? Like is your bank account hosted in a building, right? In a separate building that anybody can just enter and do maintenance or something. And then again, when they sent him the code, they said, see this code. Do not share this code with anyone, including OK. They just looked for where the 6-digit code was, remove that and you sent them. And when they were asking you over and over again, they occurred to you that, oh, this thing is becoming suspicious, so and all that. And I had a lot of questions for him. So what I'm trying to say is this: human beings will always be the weakest link, right?
Mhm.
And no matter how much we try to secure everything, human beings will always be weak, and it's kind of difficult to do security awareness for customers rather than in-house staff of organizations. In-house staff of organizations, you can send them an email to say you need to complete this at so and so point in time because it's going to count towards compliance for our organization, and they will do that. Or you can even tell them, oh, we are having a session today where we are going to just security awareness. Everybody needs to join in. They'll join in. But end users, you send them this one, they'll think it's adverts that you are sending to them. You know, you tell them to send them a link on YouTube. They're not going to watch it. Even the push notifications on the app, as long as you're not telling them about their money, they are not interested. So I'm not saying this is the recommended way of doing things, but one of the best ways I've seen to infuse security awareness, a culture of security awareness in the minds of bank customers
Mhm.
is to learn from someone that has been defrauded, or to learn from you yourself that has been defrauded. I'm not saying
Mhm.
that they need to be defrauded first, but that's the way that I've seen it works, except for people that are a lot more careful in terms of dealing with their, uh, their 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 transactions. All right. So I wouldn't blame the technical controls, but I can even tell you that sometimes the technical controls can be overkill. Right. I was speaking with a friend who is a consultant in the Netherlands, and um, he was asked to draw up an anti-fraud architecture for a particular bank. You know what this guy did? Just took what was being done in Nigeria, just copy and paste into a document, edited it to and they looked at it, they said this is too much. Why is it that when we want to use card, we have to put pin? I'm like, these people don't understand what they call card as. People that they have your card data already. You think you have your card in your pocket to save.
Mhm.
Some people have already snapped it, printed the text out, and they are selling
Mhm.
like 500 cards for like $50. They will
Mhm.
even give you README uh, usage policy. Start with small sums because when you maybe you see like a debit of $10, you think, oh, it's my Spotify. The next one you see, oh, it's my Google one. The next thing you see $1,000, then your eyes will open. You stand in the express, you're pressing phone. This is the way things work. So when people are putting a lot of technical control, not because they want to fulfill the customer, but sometimes the customer can feel very frustrated and just need to step down the controls a bit, right? So just to conclude, I would say the onus is more on the people than the technical
That
controls that
tech.
are being implemented. Yes.
So even for the people, it also speaks more on why, according to 2023 reports, social engineering is still number one and has the highest volume as to the amount lost. So before we move into the techniques and how they are hitting us, I just love us to dive deep a little into how we've been doing or setting up fraud architectures for the last 10, 20 years. Um, so a lot of financial institutions, so it's either you're coming from SOC 2, Type 1, SOC 2, Type 2, ISO 27001, compliance, and this compliance, or you're talking about PCI DSS, PADSS, NIMC, many more compliance bodies and all of that, SCOMOL, and many more others like that. Now, each of these things does have their requirements, from people requirements to process requirements to infrastructure requirements, network, application layer, security, access controls, and every other thing. Now, the major problem that we're seeing, so why some of these guys are not even in full compliance of these existing compliance frameworks and bodies, the major problem that we're seeing is a problem of this existing, you have one big firewall. So on your infrastructure, you do a couple of segmenting. I have my app, I have my app layer, the web layer, the DB layer, controls between each of this layer, the firewall sniffing all transaction. I set up this tool, I use this gigantic firewall, maybe a FortiGate or a Cisco firewall. Uh, I set up my IDS, I set up my antivirus. But the interesting thing is this fraud attempts are now much more interesting. Not that those fraud attempts that comes from network layers and firewall layers are not still coming. They're still coming. People are doing like an automated scans of vulnerable system. But this particular one that is hitting and defrauding people is going to come like a normal traffic. Network side, firewall side, fully fine. It comes into your system, it does what it needs to do, it comes out of your system, money is gone. And that's why it's a major problem. So it just shows that existing anti-fraud infrastructure, security control, this compliance, that compliance is not really working for a lot of these financial institutions. And another thing again, existing compliance frameworks is not really, because after social engineering, because social engineering being a people problem, also has a thing on the end user, like the OTP, the guy who was supplying the OTP thing. But the next kind of fraud, in which I don't think our compliance is really addressing, is on the insider fraud. So, Charles, I want you to like throw some small lights as to regards to insider fraud, because even for these UBA, and some more other financial institutions, they are the insider guys involved in perpetuating that fraud. So understand that the insider guys understand the limit of each of these accounts. What exactly is happening? Is it that these insider guys are having to turn off? I think these guys are having a de-risking, business logic de-risking tool, although some of them don't have it. If these guys are actually having it, is it that these insider guys are having to turn it off, or these tools are not sophisticated enough to detect when a fraud is coming from the insider person or not. I know you spoke on the rule system, so you can also buttress on the limitation of the rule system and how AI behavioral modeling can come in to help.
All right. I think you made a very valid point. So I'll address it from two angles: the back end, which is the insider threats, and then the front end of things, which has to do with the um, fraud detection using the rule system and then using AI. Right. So in terms of the insider threats, sorry. I think one thing that works is not a silver bullet, but if properly configured, identity and access management and reduction of privileges is something that works um, very well, right? Can help in significantly um, reducing threat of an insider, frauding the bank, or frauding customers, right? So the thing is, these insiders usually have access to critical systems. And another thing I've noticed, or rather I noticed in the past, which of course have been corrected, is the fact that critical systems have test systems as well. And these test
Mhm.
systems are connected to production database. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
So
So
test systems connected to production database. I understand. Messed up.
so so what that now means is you might be calling this a test core banking, but you can actually use it to carry out transactions because the users there are real. The amounts there are also real, right? So identity and access management, who has access to what, right?
Hmm.
And another thing I've seen happen is people having generic access systems. So a core banking solution, for example, has only one user. User is user at bank.com, and everybody's sharing the credentials. But the thing is, if we have five people that are sharing those credentials and I use that credential to commit fraud, you're not able to tell who exactly among the five of us
That's
committed the fraud. You can't tie it to somebody. So we need to eliminate the use of generic credentials, generic passwords. Then also you need to restrict access and enable login. So you need to have a system to say, oh, okay, this person accessed the system at so and so time, and this is what it is. You need to be able to tell what someone did on the system without even logging into the system, right? I need a system to say system too much. You need another system to analyze the logs, all right? Uh, perform like a correlation and then throw up alerts when it feels like something malicious is happening, right?
Mhm.
And then I talked about reduction of privileges. Um, I've seen the situations where somebody is able to create a request and also approve the request at the same time. So there's no like control of privileges. There's no control, maker checker control, right? So if somebody initiates a request or something, another person should be able to approve that request, all right? And it shouldn't just be tied to one person, but rather a group of people. And the
Mhm.
request itself should be available to everyone to see, so that when something seems off, somebody can be able to like raise an alarm, right? Um,
Mhm.
I think mm, there was a story going around so many years ago. I don't know how true that story was, but it seemed quite true to me because I later saw something in the news of some hackers. They were trying to gain access to a bank system and they they couldn't gain access. So what they now started using was um what's the word again? Enticement. So like
Mhm.
you just approach maybe someone in IT, someone in admin and say, oh look, here's the deal. All I need you to do is just log in and leave the system open, right? Don't do anything. I'll take it up from there. When I get it, I'll give you some amount, right? So what control do you have against someone doing something like that? You understand what I'm trying to say? Um, you need to reduce, or rather give people only the privileges they need to do their jobs, right? And nothing more. Um, Back then we see people that have so many privileges. This one can approve loan, this one can create loan, this one can do this, can do that. There needs to be an audit, right? So that's it from the back end side of things. And You can also use deterrent measures. Um, so I know a particular bank that before you get employed, they actually carry you to prison, right?
Yes,
And you see,
Access Bank
yeah,
does that also. Is it
I'm
Access
trying not to
Bank?
mention, I'm trying not to mention names. I don't mention the name. No, Allah. They carry you to prison. Like you see the living conditions of people there. So that one, people that don't have mind by default, either they don't commit fraud or they're very careful of what they do. It's only those that have mind that will go ahead, and that kind of reduces the possibility of an employee being an insider threat. Now, back to the front end side of things, I've spoken about using rule-based solutions where you say, okay, if somebody um, is transferring, let's say the limit is 25 million, so somebody is transferring to 2 million, then that means the person is performing a slicing, a layering attack. Oh yeah, block it. But I could have 25 million in my account that I want to move elsewhere. And because I can't move it, my single limit is 2 million and my daily limit is 25 million. I'll be removing it to
Mhm.
2 million. So are you saying I'm defrauding myself? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So we need to use AI-based solutions because they are more context aware and they are able to ingest um, very large data sets and learn uh, the complexities, intricate patterns that exist between these data sets. And like people would say, the performance of a model is very much dependent on the quality of data that you use to train the model. So someone could say, okay, we want to train a model to detect fraud, and then say, okay, give me all the transaction data you have for the last 10 years. They give you the data, and then you start training with everything. Don't check to look whether, oh, do I need this column? Do I not need this column? And this
Mhm.
column, is it properly formatted? Have I converted it to the right format that the um, the training system understands? You understand?
Uh-huh.
So
Mhm.
there are a lot of factors that go into generating accurate models, or rather, well-performing models for detecting fraud. All right. So if you're able to move away from strictly rule-based detection systems to um, um, the ones powered by AI or what we call machine learning, it's a lot easier and a lot better because they can even adapt to um, emerging fraudulent patterns. Because all you need to do is just gather data of fraudulent activity, all right, and then
Mhm.
retrain the model with it as well, and is able to detect the patterns between that exist within the data, and then use that to say, okay, this person is doing this, doing this, doing this. The transaction seems to be fraudulent. So we flag it for investigation, right? Rather than using a rule-based model that sometimes when the transactions are like higher than normal, it can be very slow because it has to go through all the rules to ensure that it meets the requirements. And it's a lot inefficient than the AI powered ones because the AI powered ones are kind of like context aware. All right. And there's also what we call behavioral detection. So let's say someone like me now, um, I have the way I type, right, and I have the way I log in, and I'm always probably using beneficiaries when I'm
Mhm.
sending money. But then somebody now maybe has access to my account, and then it's typing a lot slower than I normally type. And rather than using beneficiary, they are putting in the account number, and spending a lot of time when me normally I just do it in a breeze. Then coupled with other activities, that could be flagged for um that could be flagged for investigation as well, right? So people might also say things like, oh, but does it mean that we should abandon the rules? Right? The rules are good, right? But they may not catch some things that AI powered uh, fraud detection tools will usually catch. So I know a couple of tools, for example, that combine using rules and also using AI at the same time. Okay, I think I should just give you your flowers. I know that Autogon has this finance fraud de-risking platform that combines both together, which is good. So whatever the
Mhm.
rules do not detect, the AI side of thing also detects as well, and does this de-risking in like milliseconds, very fast, right? Because of the uh, quality of infrastructure associated on, right? So back to what I was saying, we don't just depend on only rules, right? AI is here for a reason, and there's really no hype around it. It's critical. I don't think there's a hype around something that is very critical, because technology will always evolve, right? There's always going to be evolution of technology. I remember back then, um, I mean, surprisingly, when Windows created systems, laptops, and everything, there was no login page. You just say hello, welcome, and anybody can log in, because they didn't expect that a reasonable person will carry another person's computer and log into it. Do you
Mhm.
understand? It wasn't until what's the name of this social engineering guy, Kennedy something. He he was just surfing around the internet, came across FBI systems, and they said, welcome, log in. And he logged in. No username, no password. They arrested him, they took him to court, and he told them, I saw the system, and they told me, welcome, log in. And I logged in, and they set him free.
Wow.
Yeah, they set him free. So things have not evolved. In fact, today, to even log into someone's system, you just have to guess a long password, and you still have to get the code to log in. And sometimes, even if you have the password and the code, if you are logging from a different location, that person normally logs in, they will flag it and they will tell you to still verify that you are that person. All right. So
But I don't think a lot of fintech founders want to adopt this strict measure on security. Remember this triad: security, ease of
mhm,
use. Remember that triad. So the more you
yeah.
trust so strong security, the further you deviate from ease of use. So I don't think fintech
That's
founders want
correct.
to look into
I,
stronger security.
well, yes, you're right, because even the ones I've considered for sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, they always kind of like push back on a lot of things, right? So, for example, they don't see why you should have a code for logging in and then a transaction code as well. That's a lot of passwords to remember, right? And even sometimes to sign up, there's this face detection software that to me I think works really fine, and I like it because I don't want to use the word that it's fraud proof, but it significantly reduces fraud, right? Because if someone is trying to take over your account, then they have to carry your face and roll it around the camera to show that, oh, I have the person's head, oh, so you
One
have
left,
me access.
one right.
Exactly.
Open your eyes,
Yeah.
close your eyes. You can easily beat that right now using Gen AI.
Mm,
All right. So
I'll,
let me
I,
hold you there. Sorry to cut you, Charles. Let me hold you there because we just have
mhm,
10 minutes more. Now,
okay.
so according to NIPS fraud report, social engineering, okay, let me just admit this person. Social engineering happens to be number one. Now, if you now look at a lot of EFCC wanted persons and people
Mhm,
that they've been able to take that they've prosecuted in time past, a large chunk of these end users are financial misappropriation, theft, blah 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 blah. Now, this also correlates with the very growing concern of standard of living in Africa, especially Nigeria, and a lot of why a large chunk of young people, a lot of these young persons are getting much more involved in Yahoo Yahoo. Now, so meaning and Yahoo Yahoo, a large chunk of the attack vector that they leverage for Yahoo Yahoo is social engineering. I deceived this person, I did this, I did that. So I don't even see social engineering stopping anytime soon. Now the question I have for you here is um for social engineering, if someone drop, can we get record? Oh yeah, yeah, recording will make available. So for social engineering and how these Yahoo Yahoo guys are getting more stealthy and getting more very tricky with perpetrating their crime, what do you think, or how do you think we can combat social engineering to drop? I'm very certain when 2024 news report comes in, social engineering will still be number one. 2025, because the number of Yahoo boys, if I check out EFCC, FBI, Yahoo boys, and much more are coming into the scene. That's a young man. What do you want to do? Yahoo, and a lot of it is social engineering. So, what do you think, or how do you think we can go about social engineering the financial ecosystem?
The truth is, um,
Bad
awareness,
governance.
awareness has always been um, the most relevant way to combat social engineering. But like I said, end users, they already hear what you can say. Okay, in my company, I want to train users every quarter or every month, and you keep doing flash social engineering exercises like every month, every quarter, and because of that, everybody is like on their toes. So any email that comes in, they're on their toes. They're always watchful, always checking for, oh, am I going to be scammed today or not? You understand what I'm trying to say? But for end
Mhm.
users, any communication they are getting from you, they just want to know, is my money complete? My money is safe? What is happening? Anything you're telling to them about security awareness, they are not interested. The average end user is not interested. Please trust me on that. Even me, I don't read marketing emails. I don't read marketing emails. I just rely on the fact that if I want to carry out a transaction, I know what to do. And if a customer care person calls me on phone and they're beginning to ask me funny questions, I know when you are trying to touch my money, and I will just cut the phone. You understand? So even me, when they are sending me all this use this password, that I just clear it, because as long as my money is intact, we are good. You understand? It must be complete. That's my own. So, and if I think like that, I'm an average um,
So the
digital
average
banking
user
user
now
now.
is more busy, more lazy, more crazy, too busy to read
Yes,
some certain info. Yeah,
yeah. So that's it. People that are lazy to read the message that comes with their OTP completely. I don't expect them to read that thing completely, but that message exonerates the bank or the fintech in the event of fraud. They say, your customer care called me and said, you should send me your code. But they say, no, we sent you an SMS to say, even if our customer care calls you, don't give them the code. So it's you that didn't read.
yeah,
Hello. So that's
yeah.
it. That's it basically. Social engineering is not ending anytime soon. And like I said, it's not the recommended way. But what I'm seeing that is working is when you get defrauded once, the next time can be very hard, because even the
That's true.
even in the bank, you even trust the person sitting there in front of you.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Okay, a quick question on regulatory side. So a quick one. ATM transaction logs required, yet fraud still thrives. 2FA not fully adopted across channels. CBN requires T+3 refund cycle, yet many delays reported. Now, and there are so many more items like the whole tier one accounts privilege thing that is just messed up down to tier two, tier three. So many, even CBN policy on blacklisting and how financial institutions to treat a blacklisted BVN. Do you feel um, um, Nigerian financial institutions are compliant on paper and not in practice? Just yes or no. Are they compliant in paper, not in practice?
I'm in between, because I've not like gone to check to say, oh, are you compliant or not? You understand? So I cannot give a direct answer to that.
But these fraudsters are cashing out from those quick opening PalmPay accounts, OPay accounts. You just move the money from access to this to that. You move it to cash out points. You go to the ATM and go and withdraw, or one POS person and go and withdraw. And there are a lot
Um,
of policies as to cash out. But
yeah, yeah. For that one, I think for OP and PAMPay, I know that it cost a stay on Twitter, and now they have enforced the policy. I don't know if anybody has tested it, but as of today, you should not be able to carry out any transaction on OP or PAMPay without putting your BVN or NIN. I'm not sure if they have done that, but I know that was the resolve that it took. Because that
okay,
what that what the policy says.
all right. So what is the one CBN policy you think that should be enforced tomorrow to change the game? Just any. What do you think that would change the entire game of the fraud landscape, the financial fraud landscape? What's one CBN policy that would change the entire landscape?
I
Think,
think
think, think.
if CBN can, I would say two. Number one is to enforce their what they currently have for fraud prevention because it's sufficient. And then number two would be to mandate organizations to move towards AI powered fraud prevention, fraud detection and prevention, rather than just sticking to the ones that are powered by just rule sets and nothing more.
Awesome. Now, so just to buttress on that AI thing, every end customer does have a data pattern, a data behavior, a transactional behavior. So, if there's a deviation in your behavior, that's an anomaly, and that's where Ortegon Omega 2 comes in. So beyond the rules, rules is going to do what rules is going to do. If you have a rule set that any transaction from midnight treated as high risk, someone can perpetuate the transaction during the day if you understand your rules. Or you have a check that says any amount beyond 10,000 naira or $10,000, flag it. Someone can do 9,999 and move 10 of it or 20 of it. So yeah, so rules working with AI system, this AI system understanding that user's behavior and constantly adjusting based on that user's behavior is what's going to combat fraud better. So yes, so CBN needs to pushing more AI into practice and let's see how we can change that narrative, the current fraud narrative. Also, yes, there's something I said in one of my posts as to ways of achieving compliance. I think we also need to start looking more into data-driven compliance. Data-driven compliance where um, data-driven compliance where um, someone who's trying to open a bank account, not just because the current problem, you can see Access Bank now will just have a team of 5 to 10 individuals, and their tax is just the compliance department, and one person is the head of compliance. He can't, and you see the number of transactions flowing through Access Bank in a day, hundreds of millions of transactions or tens of millions of transactions, um, account opening, dormant account reactivation. He can't really monitor every single thing. So I think we need to take compliance from not just implementing compliance, system-wide compliance. We need to take compliance down from data-driven compliance, where every single transaction is being de-risked in line with the governing policy, either it's a NIPS policy or a CBN policy or whatever policy. Now, a set of last questions to our wonderful guest today, Travis. Um, Synthetic identity fraud. Yesterday or recently, OpenAI announced some major improvements on their Gen AI as to image generation and altering. And in few minutes, some folks, like somebody uploaded a Benz car. You can check on my profile, LinkedIn profile, actually tagged that. Someone uploaded a Benz car and said, hey, Gen AI, place some dents on this particular Benz. And he did it. And he can take that particular image and go meet his insurance guy and collect money from the insurance company. I took a recent award of Portugal AI and I placed it. I took a place some dents that it looks cracked. And the Gen AI did it, posing some more fraud in the insurance space. Now, with how AI is really growing and how the space is really moving very fast, what do you see as to fraud in the next 4 years? Okay, let's picture 2030. Fast rise of Gen AI doing magic, fast internet penetration, more bad governance in Africa, and people looking for fast means to make money. What do you see about the next 5 years, 2030, vision 2030? How do you see fraud looking like? And yeah, what are your projected amounts that we're going to lose to fraud?
Okay, we don't even need to wait for 2030 because it's already happening. The other day I heard about someone that used the generative AI to change himself from a black to a white person so that he could get a remote job. And I also heard about how somebody in North Korea, um, somebody in North Korea use generative AI to change their appearance to a white person and they use it to scam a particular company.
Mhm.
So this is already happening. Deep fake, right? Sometimes, as we are here now, how are you people sure that I'm the real person here, right? Do you understand? I mean, these are things
Mhm.
that we need to look at. So the way I see it, there has to be a regulation for all AI systems or any like social media provider to tag AI generated content. So if you are running a deepfake company, maybe for fun purposes, then there must be a tag to say this is not real. Especially if you are using AI images, there must be a tag to say, oh, this is an AI generated image, right? And even if you're trying to
How
use another
about
person's
systems
identity,
at the open source market? Systems at the open source market where you can go under the code and go and remove that label or that tag saying this is AI generated.
well,
Yes.
regulations do not only apply to commercial systems; they apply to everyone, right? So it's if you make it if you say, oh, it's a crime for you to have an AI system that is not tagged, then that should make a lot very, very careful. Nobody wants to go to
It's
jail
going to be
because
bad, it's going to be terrible, or it's going to be very inefficient to implement it in the open source market.
yeah,
One
yeah,
young 14-year-old can pick one Gen AI open source code and remove that tag and generate something. He generates himself with Elon Musk carrying out a particular big deal, and it's not real.
yeah, yeah, you're right.
So, what do you say about 2030?
Um, I think there's going to be like a rise in AI generated fraud, but also there are going to be like very strict regulations on the use of AI. So we currently have a set of regulations from the EU, and I see this being widely adopted and like built upon, and I see countries adopting these regulations as well because if you can see a North Korean person, you know, joining an interview. I mean, pretending to be the CEO of a company and then scamming the company, then we're going to see a whole lot that is worse, right? So it's not the first time we're seeing things like this. We're seeing a lot of things like this, but it's
Mhm.
happening in flashes, but it's going to grow with time and regulation regulation needs to come in to try to step it down. May not eradicate it completely, but we'll step it down to um, significant number that is easily manageable.
All right. All right. Guys, if you have questions, we just have a minute to take questions. A minute to take questions. Anybody with questions? So for security professionals on this particular webinar, what's the most damaging fraud type your organization saw for 2023? How about 2024? What are you currently experiencing for 2025? Feel free to share thoughts here. What's your confidence in fraud detection stacks? Low, moderate, high. So security professionals, if you're practicing, you could drop stuff. And who's slowing fraud response the most? Is it the ops team? Is it the compliance team? Is it the tech team? Or is it the CBN? Yes, I think, yes, Edit, she just dropped a question. Uh, okay, what is it? The complexity can sometimes make it difficult. Yes. Uh, so so asleep I meant here is so you can't be in an institution and like I know of a particular institution that this Q1 of 2025 alone they've lost about 10 billion naira. Now you're a security analyst there, and you keep seeing very interesting threats that keeps coming out, and your solutions are failing and you keep going to work and you're collecting salary and the accounts or the finance department is just putting it at risk of doing businesses and people's money in most times it just falls down to the end users. Their savings are gone, their hard-earned money gone, the bank increasing their tariffs to make the money back for the investors. So yes, security analyst needs to actually do better. In fact, I think she just keep more of them should keep in glued with this webinar because we're going to be taking some interesting series. We'll be learning, unlearning, and relearning how to do stuff better. And when you see this kind of sophisticated stuff, how to mitigate them early enough. John, you want to comment? So question.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. So, as an AI developer, I'm a machine learning engineer. My major concern has been data. So I also asked this question on a related program. I think it was also by AutoGen. So my question is, you mentioned that you have to you collect data to be able to do all of this training. Yeah, we know that for the developers, but where do we get the data? After that session, I reached out to one of the panelists and asked, for financial institutions, are you allowed to use the data you collect from everyday transactions like payment platforms, for example? Are you allowed to use the data to train models to um, detect these patterns? And he said, yeah, you have to, I said you have to ask for permission. So I don't know, these regulations, do they hamper the speed of developing AI solutions to catch these suspicious activities? How do they impact the speed of developing these solutions? Like, if there's no data, what can we really do? That's my question.
All right.
Okay.
Charles, you want to comment?
I don't know. Please go ahead if you want to.
Okay. So let me take it first, then Charles comes in. So I think financial institutions can have a two-way innovation model where there's the public side innovations enabled with hackathons. And if you're going to be making private data available, you want to obfuscate, you want to remove PII, personal identifiable information, that is not going to point back to each of those end users. You want to already take out each of those steps and keep it clean. So end users can already utilize it to build machine learning models. Therefore, internal systems, like what Orthogon Omega Solutions do today for financial institutions. Not all of these guys do have their past transactions. Like a new financial institution that comes into the market, you don't have your past financial transactions. It's as simple as this. Because it's a blended system, rule and AI model. Now the AI model is already default turned on, and as transactions are coming, it's de-risking transaction. Each of those transactions, once it gets to a particular threshold, say like 50 transactions, the AI models get built from what the rules have already de-risked. And there are multiple AI models. There's from the anomaly detection AI model, looking at the behavioral pattern of every single end user, looking at the behavioral pattern from every single end user. And there's the supervised learning AI model that looks at historic practice of fraud and users' behavior and predicting their next activity. Charles, you want to come?
Okay. Thank you. I think the main thing I was going to say was the obfuscation. Now, according to data privacy laws in Nigeria, if you are going to use any data, as long as it doesn't have PII or anything that can point to the owner of the data, you are free to go ahead and use the data, right? So what we're more interested in is the behavior and
Mhm.
not the identities, right? So someone like
Okay.
me now, I have um I'm not to explain it now, but I have a way I do things, right? And you can tie it down to an obvious what they call this thing again. Pseudonymization. Sorry, I'm always almost biting my tongue. And create
Yeah.
pseudonyms that you cannot naturally tie down to an actual user, right? So if you use pseudonyms and you're able to tie their behaviors down to that pseudonym, you cannot prove that you can tag that pseudonym back to
Mhm.
a natural user, right? So even for research purposes, you would see that you can actually give up data for research purposes as long as you cannot see anything that points to an actual user in it. So that takes care of it for permissions.
Okay,
All
please
right.
come in. A follow-up question. So
Hmm.
what the bulk of what we just said now is it ties to the companies that are doing this core payment. Like they can use it. They are the ones collecting this transaction. So, but for like Autogon, for example, um, you're more like a company providing a system for this core payment platform to ensure that they are compliant. So, are you allowed to? Because I know that there are rules around how long you can keep a customer's data and all of, like
Mhm.
what regulations are available to either allow you or not allow you use this data, because you're more like a third party system now, providing compliance systems for these core payment platforms.
Okay.
So they core payment might be allowed to use the data because they are the ones collecting it, but you that you're like a third party providing compliance and regulation systems, are
Mhm.
you allowed to use this data? Are you allowed to use it to build models to enable these core payment platforms track, catch these suspicious activities? So that's where my question is really going. Yes, exactly.
All right. So Autogon AI in the area of financial fraud does something simple. So there are compliance practices that prevent third party from having access to those data. So Autogon AI does deploy on-premise solution for the financial institution. So if it's on-premise, is within your network, your data is private to you, you just have a solution that helps you make very informed decision about every single transaction that comes into your network. Does that answer your question?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. This answers it.
Right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any more questions, feedback? Ready?
Yeah, sorry,
Calling
just
me. Okay.
to add to what Ebuka said. So, um, yeah, if your company is using Autobahn AI, right, you're going to be the user of Autobahn AI. So it's not Autobahn AI that has that governance, I mean, control over the data and all that. You're the one that determines how the data is going to be used. So you're the data controller, basically, right? So what now needs to happen here is you need to sign a data privacy agreement between yourself and Autogon, all right, and include all the necessary clauses. Let both parties understand their responsibilities even before you. Um, I think is it before purchase or after purchase? I think it's after purchase. I don't know, but you need to sign a data privacy agreement, and you need to understand
Mhm.
how you're going to process the data as well, right? So I'm just adding that because I do something in data privacy. Thank you.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
I think we have one last question from Edith.
Okay. Question. Edit, you want to come?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much. So my question would be to Charles. You gave an instance where you were consulting for a company, a financial institution, and they were like, we can't have a different pin for authentication and a different one for transaction, if I'm not wrong. So my question now would be, so how do you think financial institutions can strike a balance between, implementing effective security controls and not, creating um a difficulty for end users, not creating a friction for them? And then also, do you have any strategies, or are there any strategies that have been effective in implementing this balance? So I'd love to know.
Okay, so there's no one way of doing things like that, right? So one of the institutions I worked in, we put in all these controls, and then users start complaining that, oh, it's too much and all that. And if you have something that has a balance, users will not be complaining. So then we have to start making compromises here and there while ensuring that there were um, compensating controls to ensure that no fraud actually happens. All right. So one of the things that we did was that app you cannot install on a particular version of Android. But if you look at companies like OPay, PamPay, even those with Android from 1999, as Windows on Android there, you can still use the app on that system, right? And we've not heard that, oh, there was maybe a banking trojan that came on their computer and this one or that one happened. So we had to step that one down to say, okay, anybody can install the app, right? Then also, I think the issue of the code, I think I can't remember how we resolved the issue, but I know we had to take one out. We had to remove so I remember now there was a username, there was password, there was
Mhm.
additional code to log in. So we had to take out additional code to log in. So now left it with username and password. But for transaction, we need to use a transaction pin to carry out your transactions, right? And for 2FA, I think it was face control 2FA. I can't remember now. Let's get so um that's basically it. Most times you get feedback from your users, and then you need to have another roundtable to determine, oh, what needs to go, what needs to stay, what is sacrosanct. All right. And then answered about the strategy. There's no one strategy about it. You just need to, look at it from an architectural point of view. Tell me what controls you need where, and when you implement it, you take feedback from users to refine and redeploy again.
Awesome. So I just created a poll, a real quick poll. So we just take it, make some sense from the data before we call it a day. And I've just pushed the poll to every one of us. Who is slowing fraud response the most? Is it the ops team? Is it the compliance? Is it the tech or the CBN? Who is slowing fraud response the most? So we just have 30 seconds to participate in this poll. Who is slowing fraud response the most? 20 seconds something. So while we are participating in the poll, yes, so it's important that we are doing some interesting data gathering. So we are making very insightful decision at every point in time, even as we're also correlating it to what NIPS or FITC or EFCC is actually pushing out. Now, yes, so in closing out, if we don't move beyond audits and dashboards to real-time connected intelligence, we'll still be hosting webinars like this in 2030, only with much more higher fraud. So we need to fix this, coming together as different ecosystem players. We need to fix this. We need to bring in sanity into the financial ecosystem, especially Nigerian financial ecosystem. So today, so why Nigeria? Yes, we used to brag about it. Financial, you do a transfer right now, and in milliseconds, the other person gets it. Yes, so it's a good thing and it's also a bad thing, and that's because the bad actors are taking advantage of this speed and cashing out very fast. You do a transfer, actually non-working hours, it's always been placed to pen. So whenever I'm in the US, just do a transfer, either a Chase or any of those banks. It's always placed on pen until working hour, and these guys are having to screen this transaction. It takes a couple of minutes, sometimes hours, before the next person is going to get this transaction. Now it is slow, but their fraud count is much more lower. Yes, the success of the fraud activities is much more lower than what we're having here. So our system here is very fast, but a lot of financial institutions are bleeding. And yes, we need to solve this problem. So let me just quickly check out the poll. I think, and so a total of three votes, ops, compliance, and CBN. Please, more persons should participate. Then we'll just end the poll and call it a day. Slowing fraud response the most? Is it the ops team? Is it the compliance team? Is it the tech or is it CBN? Yes, for me, I'll go with the CBN because they share a whole lot in this entire process. Okay, just one more vote so we can have a balanced poll. One more vote, one or two more votes so we can have a balanced poll. All right, and awesome. Awesome. Oh, nice. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I just ended the poll. So majority of the votes went to the compliance. Yes. So the compliance and not the ops or tech. We'll talk more about that in subsequent webinars. So stay glued, subscribe, and watch out for some more interactive sessions like this. Peace out, everybody, and bye for now.